spoke at the last National Constitution Party meeting up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And, I thought he was going to have people dancing on the tabletop stand. So, but it's former Congressman from Virginia, Mr. Virgil Goode.
Thank you very much. It was great being with you, Jordan, and I believe a few others from North Carolina in Harrisburg for the spring meeting of the National Committee of the Constitution Party. I also want to salute Jordan on his effort for running for the North Carolina General Assembly. And if you have any extra change lying around, make a donation to him. I'm sure he could use it. Glenn represented Glenn. I'm glad to be here. I noticed you were from Franklin, North Carolina. I assumed that Franklin, North Carolina was named for Benjamin Franklin, and I'm from Franklin County, Virginia, which was also named for Benjamin Franklin. I do want to tell Glenn and Jordan, service in the General Assembly of North Carolina and the state legislature of any state is a burden, but it's also fulfilling. A lot of time has to be devoted to those efforts, and North Carolina, just as it is in Virginia, it's considered a part-time job, but it's a part-time job that occupies most of your time. So I want to salute you for being there and Jordan for your efforts to get that. I'm glad to see Terry, you here from, we had, this is a number of years ago in Marksville, Virginia, on Chatham Road, Right to Life rally. In fact, I went to your church several times, so it's always good to see you. And I want to thank all of you for being here today and for supporting the Constitution Party of North Carolina. I know Al appreciates all that you do, and others do too, and persons that don't even know you are here appreciate what you are doing because you are standing up for our Constitution, which is Representative Bradley suggested is being abused. I guess that would be an appropriate word by the chief executive of this country from time to time. I wasn't here when Reverend Mark Creek spoke, but we appreciate you being here, and the others that will be speaking later. President Obama is on a trip. He's in Martha's Vineyard. He promised us hope and change. He is now living high on the hog in a place that is loaded with lots of persons with lots of money and resources. And what has come about under his leadership over 2 years? We have the biggest debt in the history of our country, $14.3 trillion. The annual deficits are approximately it's about 1.6 this year, 1.5 trillion. And the administration and President Obama enjoy slamming President Bush. And let me say, I certainly didn't agree with him all the time when I was there, and I did not agree with a number of his spending proposals in the appropriations bills. But the debt, the deficit, which is just a yearly amount that you're behind balancing the budget. Now, in North Carolina, y'all balance the budget. And it might robbed from Peter to pay Paul. In Virginia, they didn't fund the retirement system like they should have last year, but they balanced the budget. That's the state retirees. Under Obama, the deficit at $1.5 or $1.6 trillion is 4 times what it was under Bush's administration. And for him to constantly slam him, I think he needs to look at himself and his policies. Danny Turner from Martinsville, a member of the Martinsville City Council, rode down with me this morning. President Obama came to Martinsville, Virginia, which has the highest unemployment in the entire state of Virginia. And he came to North Carolina a lot too, and probably said essentially the same thing. He said, when I wake up every morning, I'm going to be thinking about Martinsville and Henry County and the high unemployment level there. You know, he may have come to Kannapolis and said that. I don't know. He said something similar, I'm sure. I just hope when he's awaking on Martha's Vineyard this morning that he was thinking about Martinsville and Henry County and the 18% unemployment rate in those jurisdictions. I look forward to what is going to be proposed in September for creating more jobs and for getting our economy out of the doldrums. I am not optimistic, but I hope for the good of the country that the House, the Senate, and the President can provide a path to help our current economic situation. Many in America are disillusioned. His approval ratings now are 39%, and the House and the Senate approval ratings are less than that. Americans, by those numbers, believe that we are adrift without a captain to chart the course. Our country needs leaders in the House, the Senate, and in the presidency that will be guided by God and the Constitution and not be afraid to say that. I think there are 3 things, practical measures that can be done, that should have been done this year and in the past year to right the ship. First, reduce spending and balance the budget. This is not going to be easy to do because you basically have got to cut $1.5 trillion or get more revenue coming in. Every department in federal government needs to be cut, and some need to be eliminated. And if you strictly followed the Constitution, a lot of them shouldn't even exist at all. Here. I could pick out the Department of Education. That is not in the department. I mean, it is not in the Constitution. When I was there, I supported Pell Grants for college students. But we can't keep going down that road. Don't have the money. When I was there, I voted against No Child Left Behind. And they got numerous programs in the Department of Education, and I enjoyed throwing up a no vote on them. In the Department of Agriculture, UAN in rural development, and that helps a lot of places. It's helped my counties, it's helped
ones in Glenn's district, all over the country. But yet, you can't keep going in that direction. It's going to be painful. The members of the House and the Senate and the President is going to have to say, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep funding all that we have been funding. We have got to balance our budget. Housing and urban development. I could go down a list of their expenditures in so many different areas. And in agriculture, the biggest expenditure is food stamps. Now I can tell you, they didn't even know what food stamps were in 1789 when the Constitution was adopted. And now, you know, food stamps are called SNAP now. Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program is what I think it stands for. And I believe from the focus of the administration, they like the fact that that is one of the fastest growing programs of the federal government. It is between 70 and 80 billion dollars. It's the biggest chunk of the Department of Agriculture. We need to be tightening it up rather than expanding. One of the officials from the Department of Agriculture said, our outreach program is doing so great, we've expanded it by X number. I can't remember what it was, but they were proud of the fact about how much that program has expanded. And part of it is the economic situation. But part of it is, let's go out and get as many people as we can. And that's what happened when you had the banking fiasco and the bailout. Let me say, I didn't vote for the bailout. Got criticized, got ripped in the election because I didn't vote for it. But a big chunk of the reason for that situation was Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And the federal government had the politically correct people saying, make more loans. Make more loans. If persons are in tough shape, maybe give them a loan. And they did. And it resulted in a huge bailout by the federal government. And Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and some of the people over there in that, they got a lot of money for making politically correct loans instead of financially correct loans. I could go through a list of things that should be defunded. I mean, Planned Parenthood should get zero. National Endowment for the Arts should get zero. LaRasa, which wants more people to come into this country from other countries and pave the way for them, should get a zero. Public broadcasting should get a zero. And you could go on down the list. There is so much stuff in the different departments that could be zeroed out and would actually, in my view, enhance America. The Ryan budget, which all the Republicans in North Carolina voted for, the ones that didn't vote for it, and I want to salute those 4 representatives, except one, Walter Jones. Walter Jones voted no on the Ryan budget. Ron Paul, got the button now, voted no. I would have to say of all the members of Congress, and I voted against a lot of budget resolutions. I could vote against them all if they wrapped some other stuff with it that might have been snaring. But I think of all the members of Congress, Ron Paul was the only one that, I don't think he ever voted for a budget resolution. Never voted for one. So, he voted no. Denny Reberg from Montana voted no. And a guy named McKinley, who I'm not familiar with, I believe from Texas, voted no. All the rest of the Republicans voted yes. And let me say, I'm glad the House is Republican and not Democratic, and I think they are spending less than the Democrats would do. But the news media didn't focus on this. The Ryan budget was $1 trillion in deficit this year. They didn't tell you about that. Now if the Democrats ever passed the budget, they did like they did when if you added up what they did in the appropriations bill, they'd done about $1.5 trillion. So the Republicans were better, I believe, than the Democrats in passing the budget. But Ryan's budget was $1 trillion in deficit. You've got to have the courage to attack some of these things this year, not wait and cut them out 10 years down the road. I was up there when Newt and Bill Clinton got together and came up with a balanced budget agreement, BBA. Said this is the pathway to keep us on a balanced budget. They moved for it. I thought it was a lot of smoke. It is a lot of smoke, it turned out. They're always going to cut Medicare in the future. It's always about slashing Medicare. Ryan, and if I had to pick a program that I want at the bottom of the list to slash, it would be Medicare. And it's not authorized by the Constitution. But I can tell you a lot of seniors without Medicare would be, and these are people who paid their dues in America and they paid in taxes year after year after year, and they get to be 65 years old. And if you adopt the Ryan approach, here's what they're going to say. We're going to help you pay some of the premium to the insurance company. But the support that we gave for your hospital bills and your doctor's bills, that's not going to be there. You're going to be out at the sea fighting the sharks with yourself. So I don't think that should be at the top of the list to cut like it was in the Ryan budget. So I would disagree with that. As I said, to get us right, you've got to reduce spending and balance the budget. It would be a fabulous message for the business across the country and for the world to see that the United States was doing what it needed to do to get its fiscal house in order, and that means balance. Second thing, we've got to increase jobs for Americans. Common sense matters. And one thing to do that would end, just take it off the books, and I do want to salute the House for doing this. The Republicans and Democrats have voted for it. Was in Obamacare. It is a morass of regulations, and it's a hamstring, and businesses don't know what the next directive from the czar that's over HEW over Kathleen Sebelius is going to tell them to do. It is not an environment favorable for somebody to go out and hire someone else in the private sector. And I want to commend the Constitution Party for standing forthrightly for the repeal of Obamacare. They took that stand at Harrisonburg, and it was the right stand in my opinion. Dodd-Frank, that's a bunch of regulations, particularly on community banks. The lady that Obama appointed was on an early morning television show saying how that helped the community bank. Let me tell you, I've not talked to a single community banker that said Dodd-Frank was what we needed to get us right. If you talk to them, we need to be slashing out Dodd-Frank regulations, not bringing them in and putting more on the small banks. Unemployment is 9.2%. 15 million unemployed that are seeking work. Now, there are probably more than that aren't seeking work, but those are the official numbers. If we had no illegals taking jobs in America, that number would be slashed by nearly half. 6 to 7 illegally in the country are taking jobs that Americans, citizens, should have. The Republicans don't want to talk about this. Democrats certainly don't. Democrats says, bring them on in, let's get the illegals on a glide path to citizenship so they can be voting for us in a future election. And a lot of the Republican leaders are saying, we got to have this label because they will do jobs Americans want to do. Let me tell you, I was talking to a roofer in South Boston, Halifax County, Virginia. Can't do any jobs. He believes, and I believe he's probably correct, that most of the roofers have come here from Central America, South America, and they're doing the jobs and they're undercutting the American worker. And that is just a for instance. It is all across this country. And it is illegal, but the Obama administration is telling law enforcement, I got to ask Al if they got it down to him, the state chair, saying, we only want you to deal with somebody illegally in the country if they've committed a serious crime. We don't have time to deal with persons just coming in if they're illegal. If they had taken the position of Arizona and Alabama in saying we are going to preserve the integrity of the borders of the United States of America and we're going to support states rather than getting the Attorney General Holder to challenge these laws, it would have a great impact on reducing illegal immigration. And again, the Constitution Party in its meeting in Minnesota in 2010 stood up for the Arizona legislation. And you have not heard the Republicans and none of the Democrats. Have they put a resolution on the floor asking for support for Arizona? It's going to be tough in state legislations. And I know there's some in the Republican Party in North Carolina that would be of a like mindset with Alabama and Arizona. But you're going to find very few Democrats and a number of Republicans that don't want to touch that issue. And we've got to reduce legal immigration so we have more jobs for Americans. And this really eats us up. Green cards, 1.2 million this year and last year. 800,000 of that 1.2 million are coming in and they'll be ready to take a job. When you've got unemployment at 9.2%, why do you tell the rest of the world, come on in? We're going to give you a green card. That means you can go to work any way you want to tomorrow. Visa lottery. That's just a lottery system. Now, I do want to commend Congressman Goode for his bill to end that. Not going to pass. Need more people in Washington to say it should pass. 75,000 a year come in and they get a right to work card anywhere they want to when they come in under the Visa lottery. You've got persons from terrorist countries. They can come on in under the Visa lottery system. That's taking jobs. Then you've got asylees and refugees. They let them come in. And they're giving most of them food stamps, a monthly assistance, housing. We've got a $1.6 trillion deficit just for this year. Why pay out more for that? Not popular topics, and as Representative Bradley said, not politically correct. But if we don't stop this massive immigration, illegal and legal, we will never right the ship of the United States of America. And those that look you in the eye and say immigration improves the economy of the United States, I want to look back at them and tell them, you are wrong. It does not. It hurts the economy of the United States as it is currently structured. And and we need to get our unemployment level down. We need to stop illegal immigration, reduce legal immigration, repeal Obamacare, and do the things that's going to help Americans get jobs in this country. And this is another thing. This irritated me with the Congress. President Obama and every member of the House and every member of the Senate passed a bill. It sounds good on its face that we're going to cut payroll taxes. It's for the employee. And they did. Every member of Congress got a cash increase of $2,500. The president got $2,500 more in take-home pay. And then let me say all the other workers did too that pay Social Security tax. But when you have the Social Security fund and Obama, Medicaid like it is, that is not the approach to take. If you want to encourage people to hire, you reduce it on the employer. The employer will say, well, if I don't have to pay as much in Social Security, I will hire more people. They didn't do that. They helped themselves, but didn't help the encouraging of employment of people. And that's what we've got to do. Reduce spending, get people to work, and by that I mean American citizens. And the last thing we've got to do is have term limits. And I mean, I hate to say it, I was up there for 12 years, and I can tell you what a rat race it is. You've got to be constantly thinking about when your next fundraiser is going to be. Yeah, where am I got to go tonight? I don't have time to read all the bills as thoroughly as I should, and I'm saying that generically because I read most of the bills. I read every bill in the General Assembly. I didn't get to read every one in Congress because you didn't have enough to bring them out. When you had those big packages, that oftentimes required an oath. But we need term limits down the line for President, the U.S. Senate, and for Congress. And I don't care whether it's 6 years or 12 years for Congress, anything those ends in between, 2 terms max in the Senate, absolutely. President, 1 term. And if you serve as much as 12 years in the federal, either in the Senate or House, that's it. And what that will do, it will decrease the influence for the Democrats, the labor groups that just pour the money into most of the Democratic candidates. The PACs just roll the money in. And the business groups mainly roll in the money to the Republicans. And let me tell you, when you are out there running, you've got to get funds. And I got PAC money. When I was in the Virginia General Assembly, I said I wasn't going to take any PAC money. And I didn't for a long time. I was there 23 years and probably 15 or 16 of them. But then people say, well, you know, you don't need the money. You're all right. Then but it's better you don't take any PAC money. And if you had term limits, I think that would help that group. Constantly worrying about raising money. Now, there were a few. I want to salute Tom Coburn. Tom Coburn said he had served 3 terms in the U.S. House, and he did. He got out. And there were several. There was a guy in Florida. He served 3 terms, got out. I voted for every term limit bill. I didn't take a term limit, whether it's when I ran. But I know a lot of them taking term limit pledges. And that's it. They take the pledge, and because if I'd have said I was going to get out after 6 years, I would have done it. And I believe if you take a pledge like that, that's what you should do. We've got to have term limits. Term limits would bring a fresh infusion into the federal government. That would be very helpful. You get persons in entrenched districts. That on the liberal side, you got Charlie Rangel. He's going to be the FL. I don't care how many ethics trials they have. He's going to be the FL. And you can take some on the Republican side. They've got a safe district. They're going to be the FL. And they're the ones that's in the key positions, because the longer you're there, the better your position is. That's how Rangel got to be head of Ways and Means. And you got them heads of some of the committees there that have been, those that have been the longest. Republicans did have a term limit thing on committee chair service. Democrats don't have it. The party selects, the majority party select committees. And that was a positive step underneath. But we need term limits across the board. Thomas Jefferson, we talked about him earlier today. He was for term limits. Didn't get it in. That was an argument in the Federalist papers. He wasn't really opposed to arguments that Hamilton and Madison and some of them used against him. Was saying, well, we don't really need that because most people aren't going to serve that long. And they were right for their era. That very few went up there and spent a lifetime. They would serve a few terms, and they looked on it as a civic duty. And let me say this, it's not true today. But in the late 1700s and early 1800s, the biggest vocation, they weren't lawyers, they were ministers. Peter Muhlenberg was a long time pastor from Pennsylvania. He was Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. Perhaps that perspective I would suggest might be better, and I'm a lawyer, than an attorney's perspective. Lastly, I want to say thanks again to all of you for being here, for your efforts on ballot access. Thank you for your work in the North Carolina House. I hope that it can pass the Senate. I believe that it would open up considerably the opportunity for different views, and not just the Constitution Party, but other forces and principles to come before the people. And please keep working. Jordan, good luck. Thank you for all your work. And may God bless North Carolina, Virginia, and the United States.